another moment of embarrassment and humiliation for veteran dump divers in the WNBA. The thing is, it didn't have to be this way. This embarrassment was completely avoidable. All you had to do include Katie Rue. But for some reason, the organizers for Team USA, and possibly even the collection of dump divers on the roster, they felt like they didn't need Caitlin Clark. Now, in their defense, they probably don't need Caitlin Clark on the court, but the inclusion of Katie Rue, it had nothing to do with basketball, or in the case of the WNBA, pretend basketball. It had nothing to do with her fitting on the roster. It had nothing to do with her ability to throw easily catchable passes only for her teammates to drop them. Including Caitlin Clark on Team USA, it should have been about one thing and one thing only: exposure. Just like their subsidizers in the NBA, the WNBA, they can't get the hell out of their own way. Because of their arrogance, or maybe even ignorance, the dump, they missed out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to expose their league to the world. Well, KC, that's not true. Caitlin Clark can play in the Olympics in 2028. The WNBA can get exposure then. Plus, what about Angel Reese? How come you always forget the Bayou Barbie when talking about the WNBA? I forget about Angel Reese? I don't forget about Angel Reese. You do. Go look at attendance for the Chicago Bravado. In the rare case that Angel Reese is on national television, look at her ratings compared to Caitlin Clark. Then you tell me who is forgetting about Angel Reese. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Now, you're right. The WNBA, they can expose themselves to an international audience in 4 years by including Caitlin Clark on the Olympic team. But here's the possible problem. That is not guaranteed. A lot can happen in 4 years. God forbid Caitlin Clark tears her Achilles, which is usually a career-altering injury for a basketball player, or the drawing power of Caitlin Clark, it could decline. Or she could come to the realization that she is making minimum wage in the WNBA and decide to accept the millions of dollars that Ice Cube was offering her to play in the Big Three. 4 years is a long time. You don't know what can happen between now and 2028. This was your opportunity. This was your chance. And you find a unique way to turn the golden goose into the polished turd? Earlier this morning, we talked about the Mahomes Mafia. To their credit, the family members responsible for generating $0 in revenue, they don't overlook the family cash cow. They don't pretend the cash cow doesn't exist. What do Britt, and Jackie Mahomes do with the spotlight provided by Patrick? They exploit it for their own personal gain. Similar situation here with Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. You know how the NBA grew their business? Unlike the WNBA, the NBA, they have tripled their revenue in the last 30 years. Now, that doesn't mean the WNBA hasn't accomplished anything in the past 3 decades. While the NBA has tripled their revenue, the WNBA, they have drastically increased their losses. Instead of losing $10 million, they are projected to lose $50 million this season. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes. One of the main reasons that the NBA has been able to triple their revenue, it's their growth in international markets. Europe, China, or as the Trumper prefers to call it, China, Brazil, Indonesia. Of the $10 billion in revenue generated every year, about $1 billion comes from international markets. Now, how did the NBA expand their reach globally? The Dream Team at the '92 Olympics. Now, obviously, Michael Jordan receives the bulk of the credit, but there was a player included on the Dream Team that often gets overlooked. Christian Laettner. Now, I have watched several Dream Team documentaries. Christian Laettner, he rarely gets mentioned. Hell, I don't even know if he touched the court outside of chasing loose balls during shoot-around. But there was a reason that David Stern pushed for Christian Laettner to be included on the Dream Team. They didn't need him on the court. This was the best collection of players the world's ever seen. Christian Laettner was chosen because he was the most popular college athlete in the country at the time. Caitlin Clark, she is one of the most popular basketball players in the country now. I'm not just talking about the dump. Caitlin Clark, she is more popular than a lot of players in the NBA. Yet, for some reason, they decide to leave her off the roster, and now they're paying the price. Let me ask you something. We are almost a full week into the Olympics. How many times have you heard about the women's team? I've heard plenty about the real Team USA. Steve Kerr was heavily criticized this week for benching Jason Tatum against Serbia. Kevin Durant, he's being talked about as the greatest Olympic player of all time. I've heard plenty about Simone Biles. Hell, I've even heard about some dude named Bob the Cucumber Catcher. He's responsible for collecting the cucumbers for men trying to qualify for women's events. There have been plenty of headlines coming out of the Olympics, but I have barely heard a damn thing about the dump divers from the WNBA. I wonder why. Earlier this week, attendance numbers were released for women's basketball at the Olympics. Now, the games are being played at Stade Pierre Mauroy, translated to English, Decathlon Arena. Now, I'm not sure why it translates to arena because this is actually a soccer stadium, meaning the capacity is a hell of a lot higher than your typical basketball arena. Instead of holding 15 or 20,000, or in the case of the WNBA, where the standard high school gym holds about 3,000, instead of the typical capacity for a basketball arena, this stadium, it holds almost 50,000. This is great! Our bearded beauties from the WNBA will be playing in front of the largest crowds of their career! Yeah. Although that's technically possible, it's far from a reality. The largest crowd so far was the game between Spain and China, just over 27,000. Now, with Spain and China drawing 27,000, these superstars in the WNBA, they easily sold out their game, right? Average attendance in women's basketball at the Olympics with the WNBA excluded, just over 21,000 a game. Now, the reason the WNBA is excluded is because they bring down the curve. Their game against Japan, 13,000. 13,000. Now, I'm no expert in math, but that seems to be about 25% capacity, but that's okay. That's okay. Since WNBA players, they are used to playing in arenas that are completely empty. The results aren't much better on television. The game between Pretend Team USA and Japan drew 3 million viewers on USA Network. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't they put the game on NBC where it could draw a larger audience? Maybe NBC thought they could draw more viewers by replaying the mockery of the Last Supper at the opening ceremony. I don't know, but on the surface, 3 million seems like a great number. And to be honest with you, it's not that bad until you put it in context, until you understand what could have been. Right before they left for the Olympics, the WNBA held their first annual All-Star game. For the first time in league history, they could actually call it an All-Star game because it finally featured a real star, Caitlin Clark. This meaningless exhibition drew 3.4 million viewers. 7 of her games at Iowa outdrew the Olympics. Now, if you want to compare to the men, Team USA, they drew almost 11 million viewers in their game against Serbia. Damn near 4 times what the WNBA drew. Well, Casey, that's not a fair comparison. You're comparing men to women. I thought we were living in the era of equity. I thought we had been told that pretend basketball is just as exciting as real basketball. But that's fine. That's fine. If you want to compare women to women, let's look at the U.S. women's soccer team, the team that was formerly led by the inspiration of prepubescent boys, Meg Rapinoe. Now, I'm sure NBC was one of the millions celebrating the retirement of the Megster, and their first Olympic game not featuring the plague, the American women, they drew 4.2 million viewers. It was the most watched Olympic soccer match regardless of gender since the 2012 Olympics. Now, looking at the ratings that are available, which are becoming less and less for reasons unknown, I still have been unable to find an answer as to why ratings are so hard to find. I've even offered to pay monthly for access, but I can't get an answer. But looking at the ratings I have available, it appears that the women of the WNBA, they are the least watched at the Olympics. Again, I wonder why. All you have to do is look at the roster and you will find the answer. Listen to the names on this team. You tell me which one of these players you're making time to watch on television. Nafisha Collier, Kalia Cooper, Chelsea Gray. Who, and who? Bob Griner. Sabrina Ionescu. Now, Sabribri, great player, but she's not must-see TV. Jewel Lloyd. Now, I'm sure she's a great jeweler, but if I needed some diamond earrings for my wife, Jewel Lloyd, my first phone call. But that does not mean I'm watching her play basketball. Kelsey the plumber. Again, if the doodle clogs my toilet, Kelsey, she's on speed dial. But I am not watching her on defense clog the lane. Brianna Stewart, Donna Taurasi, Alyssa Thomas, AJ Wilson, who the mainstream media claims is a big star. Apparently, the rest of the country couldn't care less. Jackie Young. Look, I'm sure these women are great players, but that does not mean they have drawing power. How could you fuck this up? This should have been so simple. All you had to do, put Caitlin Clark on the team. But KC, then people would complain about Caitlin Clark not getting enough minutes. Yeah. So, you know what that does? It generates headlines. It generates interest. Who cares if people are complaining? All that means they care. I haven't heard one complaint about the women's team at the Olympics because I haven't heard a damn thing about them. Give me your thoughts on this. WNBA finds another way to embarrass themselves. The WNBA finds another unique way to not draw an audience by keeping Caitlin Clark off Team USA. Someone make it make sense. Give me a logical reason as to why Caitlin Clark is not on this team. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.